There's internal dynamics that happen within our being, within our body, mind, soul, that cause us to access the spirit realms. And there's certain dynamics that have to be in place for us to go deep, go high, to touch things that we long for, that cause our lives to flow and to flourish. And one of those dynamics is something called childlike humility. The opposing dynamic that resists that pathway is the desire for greatness, the desire to have and to hold something that gives me value. Now, we weren't created and wired to have and to hold something, to be independent in and of ourselves, and to carry this, and for it to have weight with the Spirit and cause us to access the Spirit because we are great. One of the things that we can think makes us great is knowledge. I have knowledge. I have theological knowledge. I have great wisdom. And this is something I hold on to that gives me a sense internally. It's a movement of feeling expanded internally, puffed up, we would call it, to give it a sort of negative term. So I feel within the constraints of my being inflated. Whereas childlike humility gives you access to a different expansion, an expansion that's beyond your being. Let me explore that more. When I hold on to something, when I use it to add value to me, it's like I put walls around it inside, and it calcifies, it gets stuck, it's hard, it's immovable, it's brittle. And I'm putting those walls, those strong walls in to hold what I want to give value to my life. Pride of knowledge, my experience. I'm a loving person. There's sort of strengths that we hold on to give us value. And I need to put walls around it to hold it so it doesn't fade away. And if someone comes along and tries to shatter those walls, I will defend those walls. I will either nonchalantly and proudly resist them, or I will be afraid that they're shaking my walls, that they've challenged my knowledge and my understanding. And that's frightening because I'm deriving understanding and strength from what I'm holding in. That internal strength that I'm holding on to can cause competition between me and other people, because where do I sit in the pecking order? Have they got more knowledge than me? Have they got more compassion than me? There's an internal battle which comes out in competition with other people. The disciples around Jesus had this competition. They would discuss who was the greater, who would sit higher up in the hierarchy. And Jesus, wanting to teach them a lesson, draws one of the children that come to him. Often there'd be many children coming to him, and he would bless them and loves hanging out with them. He brings one of these children to him and says, the greatest has to become like a little child. Because unless you humble yourself like a child, you can't even access the higher spiritual realms and that governing action and dynamic of God in your life. It's required. It's normal and necessary. If you are desiring greatness, there will be a hardness and resistance to that flow. And what does that childlikeness produce? One of the things it produces is a sense of wonder. Like everything is possible and I don't know everything. That what I hold is not everything. And there's more. There's way more. There's a scene in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe where Lucy goes through the wardrobe into the winter wonderland of Narnia. And when they made the movie, I hear that they made the winter wonderland set and they didn't show it to the actress, the young girl who was playing Lucy, because they wanted to capture her face when she came through the wardrobe into the scene and her wonder and amazement at what it looked like. So you see on her face this amazement, this wow, wonder. When we're childlike, we don't think we know it all. We're not rigid. We're kind of ready to be shaken in what we know because we don't hold on to what we know as if we could know everything. We relax and experience the world and reality and spiritual reality as an amazing step-by-step process where I'm constantly experiencing and learning. I'm not quantifying and making rigid. I'm in a flow, a journey. It's like taking the walls of what you hold your added value in and removing them. So rather than having liquid in your cup, I let go of the cup and I swim in an ocean of liquid, where the liquid, the river, is the love, is the knowledge, is the experience of God. I don't contain it, I'm swimming in it. So that's the different sort of expansion that childlike humility gives you. It's a, wow, look at all this knowledge there is. I've barely begun. And instead of thinking, I better grab some to give me value, I just swim in it and I invite other people to swim in it with me. And so experience the rhythms of God, because the added value is within God. It's within the ocean. And I swim in Him, constantly overwhelmed by it, not containing it, but swimming through it as it passes through and out through me. It's the wonder of when you discover how something works, and that knowing you think could solidify so that you cease to wonder at how a petrol engine works, an electric motor works, how design works, how building a house works. But there's always another layer of knowing. So I understand the mechanics of an engine, but wow, the chemistry of the petrol exploding. And wow, there's always deeper layers where I can be in wonder. And it's living with that pattern within your being on a daily basis, where you take what you think you've grasped for your security, that gives you value, that gives you your greatness, and you let it go and swim in the much, much, much greater reality of His presence. So we can do that dynamic even now. I can use my body and my inner mechanisms, my thinking, connected to my soul and spirit, access what it is I hold on to give me value, as if I need those things. I breathe in and I let them go. I can tense my body again and feel it. Feel it, the fear that if I don't get this right, I'm in trouble. If I don't get this right, then what's happening today, I'm in trouble. And I let it go. and I step in my mind, and you can do it physically if you have the chance, but in my mind, I step out of rigidity and into the freedom of childlike humility, where I know, but I don't yet know it all, far from it, where I'm held in his hand, and nothing can take me from his hand. So I don't need to grip myself in his hand. I can stay open, secure, that the ocean of reality is free for me to explore, and I will not be dragged out of his hand. That's the inner working and process of humility that causes me not to fight, not to run, but inside to go, wow, he's bigger. Wonder.